This lesson is on the area of rhombus and kites, so we're combining the two because if you look at the formula, they're the same. So the area of a rhombus is area equals 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, and area of a kite is area equals 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So just like when we did the trapezoid, that 1 and that 2, I'm going to get rid of when I rewrite the formula, area equals 1/2 diagonal times diagonal, because it doesn't matter what order we multiply the diagonals in. So it doesn't matter which diagonal is 1 and which one is 2, because again, 3 times 2 is the same as 2 times 3. We get 6 no matter which order we multiply in. So for this first one, area equals 1/2 diagonal times diagonal. Well, the big diagonal is this. That's given to us. We're told that whole thing is 6. So 1/2 times 6. Now the small diagonal is made up of 2 pieces. Let me turn this for a minute. This and this. So each of those 2 pieces is 4 feet. So that entire diagonal is really, that I outlined in that kind of purple color, is 8 feet. 4 plus 4 gives me that entire diagonal of 8 feet. So I'm going to do 1/2 equals 6. Area equals 1/2 times 6 times 8. So not times 4. We have to put both of those numbers together by adding them to get that entire diagonal. Now it looks like what we had for triangle. So I work right to left and multiply. 8 times 6 is 48. I want half of that, so I divide by 2. And our area is 24 feet squared. So when I move on to this one, find the area of the rhombus. So the first one was a kite. This one is a rhombus. BE is 6. So this is 6. And CE, find a different color. CE is 8. This is 8. So if we go back and think about our properties of parallelograms, a rhombus is a parallelogram, and the diagonals in a parallelogram bisect each other. So bisect means that they are split into 2 equal parts. They're bisected at point E. So if BE is 6, then ED is also 6. If CE is 8, then AE is also 8. So we have 2 diagonals that we need to add together in this one. So we have area equals 1/2. Our first diagonal is 6 plus 6. That one's 12. So if we want that whole purple segment, we add the 2 6s together. Then if we want the whole green segment, we add the 2 8s together to get 16. Now I can multiply that. 16 times 12 is 192, and I want half of 192, so I divide by 2. And area equals 96. And this one doesn't have a unit, so I'm going to say units squared. Our next question says the area of a rhombus garden is 264 feet squared. One of the diagonals is 12 feet. Find the other diagonal. So we know area is 264. The 1/2 always stays 1/2. One of the diagonals is 12, so times 12. We want the other diagonal, so times diagonal. So this one, I can take half of 12. I can do this problem lots of different ways. I can get rid of the half by multiplying by 2 on both sides. I can divide by 12 on both sides, or I can take half of 12. So I have 264, half of 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6 times the diagonal. That leaves me with just the diagonal and 6 on the right-hand side. They're being multiplied, so I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. 264 divided by 6 is 44. So the other diagonal is 44 feet. So that was a rhombus. We can do the same thing with the kite. The area of a kite is 24 inches squared. One diagonal is 8 inches. Find the other diagonal. So area is 24. So I put that in for area, equals 1/2. One diagonal is 8. So I'm actually going to write this one a little bit differently. I'm going to say times diagonal times 8 and put my other diagonal there. But because it's multiplication, I can multiply in any order. I can still take half of 8. So I have 24 equals diagonal, half of 8 is 4. And I'm still doing the same thing I did in number 3. I have diagonal times 4. I want diagonal by itself, so I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides. So that diagonal, 24 divided by 4, is 6 inches. So that diagonal is 6 inches. So now down here, this next one, this first one down here, this next one, is like what we did up here, where we're given one diagonal, but we have to find the other diagonal by adding the two parts together. It's just a little bit more confusing. So just watch your pictures carefully. This is that kind of bracket that tells you this whole diagonal is 9 feet. So we have area equals 1/2. Our vertical diagonal is 9. Our horizontal diagonal is 6 and 6, so it's actually 12 when we add those two together. So then I'm going to take 12 times 9. That's 108. I want half of 108, so I'm going to divide by 2. And the area is 54 feet squared. The last one. This is like what we did here. This is a rhombus down here. So I know a rhombus is a parallelogram and the diagonals of a parallelogram are bisected. This is congruent to this, so this one's 3. This is congruent to this, so this one's 6. So I'm going to say area equals 1/2. This horizontal diagonal, 3 plus 3 is 6. The vertical diagonal, 6 plus 6 is 12. And then I can multiply. 12 times 6, oops, I have a negative in there. 12 times 6 is 72. I want half of 72, so I divide by 2, and the area is 36 feet squared. And then your homework is going to be 5 problems. Some of them you'll need to label. So JL is 10 miles. JL is this diagonal. That one's 10 miles. KM is 14 miles. That's this diagonal. So you have the length of the entire diagonal. You just have to know that you're working with the whole diagonal. Same thing in the next one. ZX, that is that vertical one. It's the entire diagonal, 64. WY, 12 meters, is this entire diagonal. So you have the whole diagonal given to you. In number 3, remember this is congruent to this. And this is congruent to this. In number 4, we only did this with rhombuses in the notes, but can happen with a kite too. We just have to add both parts of the diagonals together. 8 plus 8 to get the full diagonal, 11 plus 9 to get the full vertical diagonal. And number 5 is like 3 and 4 in the notes, where you are going to plug in this for the area, this for one diagonal, and then you're going to find the other diagonal. So you're still going to use this formula, area equals 1/2 diagonal times diagonal. Plug in 24 equals 1/2. One diagonal is 6. You're going to find the other diagonal using those steps in the video.